Well, good morning, Pam. You're the first one to come up in the chat. Good morning to you. Let me just say, I had somebody call me yesterday and say they were the only one in the chat. But here's what's happening. We moved over to use another broadcast medium called StreamYard. And so I'm not directly on social media. I'm in a virtual broadcast studio. Well, I'm in my office, but I'm in this by means of the computer virtual broadcast studio. And that goes out to a number of different social media sites and to YouTube. And eventually we may do it on our website. But right now, it may seem like you're the only one on there, but it's not true. I see Pam, I see Sean, I see Shirley, I see Pastor Danny. I see others that are visible on my screen. All of you are showing up on Facebook on something there. I see somebody else coming in on YouTube and watching it on YouTube or other means. So don't get discouraged. And if you are saying hello to people and they're not saying hello back, because with this new model, we are at a number of different places. Good morning, Allison. Good morning, Bob. Good morning, Debbie. And welcome to all of you. Veronica, good morning. Spent time again this morning with a number of people on an earlier call, and I did something with them at the end of the call. These are intercessors. And by the way, you can always join me. I look for people to pray for me and with me every Wednesday morning at 6:30. And it's the same number, 518-318-7117. Same number we use for the Saturday night call. And we do a Saturday night call at 9 o'clock. And so forth. So somebody said, Allison said, I get notifications from YouTube, but not Facebook. So you have to go on Project Pray, Facebook, and just sign up, and you'll get, if you want, notifications there. Good morning, Lynn. I'm so sorry. I think the notification thing is something you do where you set it up and say, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know. I think you set it up and say, I want notifications. And that may be something that we need to be doing as well. I'll check on it, okay? I'm not very smart. I know how to turn a computer on, and I know the number to call somebody when it doesn't come on. In fact, I called him yesterday and said something's not working on my computer. All right, anyway, on an earlier call this morning, I asked the question, how many of you know about the Appeal to Heaven flag? And I was kind of taken back when there was silence on the other end of the phone. So Google it, Appeal to Heaven. It's a white flag with a pine tree. And across the top are the letters Appeal to Heaven. And Shirley's saying I get notifications on Facebook. Uh, Good morning, Molly. Good morning, Kathy from Greenville. So I want to tell you the story of this appeal to heaven, because this is really very, very important. It's important what we're trying to do in July. In 1775, how many of you know the date of the American Revolution, the Declaration of Independence? Well, it was 1776. So a year before, uh, the talk and movement about national independence had stalled, and and if it had not, if there had not been movement to go forward, there would be no America. Not as we know it. 2 years before that, England had passed what they call the Tea Act. Now, uh, the West Indies Trading Association doesn't sound like it's associated with England, but it was England's. Um, England had invested state money into this corporation, which traded around the world, and particularly in the Far East, and and it was in trouble financially. And because it was in trouble financially, England was in trouble financially. And so one of the ways that they tried to balance their budget was on the back of the colonies, by forcing everyone in the colonies to buy English goods, particularly English tea. And there were times when the homes of the colonialists were raided. So if you had any kind of tea, and you could buy tea from other places, but it was illegal, it was contraband. So if you had any kind of tea that didn't have the English brand on it, then it was confiscated. And so what happened was England continued this, no representation in Parliament, but they continued this heavy hand of trying to, with inflated prices on goods, force the colonies to buy these these goods. And they had brought 7 ships with 600,000 pounds of tea to America. And they brought it to New York, to Charleston, to Philadelphia, and those ships were turned away. Those ships were turned away. The colonialists had resolved, we're not going to buy your tea anymore. We're simply going to boycott your tea. But the governor of Boston allowed 4 ships into the harbor. And when he allowed those 4 ships into the harbor, um, Samuel Adams and others, called the Sons of Liberty, raided those ships at night and threw the tea overboard into the Boston harbor. I mean, this is not throwing a few sacks of tea overboard. This was this was massive. It took them hours to do this, and so English tea never made it to the market, and it created a crisis with England and America. You have to go back and realize that only about 30% of the colonies wanted independence. The colonialists wanted independence from England. 30% wanted to remain loyal to England. And when the revolution came and succeeded, they packed up their bags and went home. Uh, about 40% just didn't want war. And so there was this feeling that the Sons of Liberty had gone too far. And in the Second Congressional Congress, there was great talk about how to placate England, how to make them happy, how to not provoke them. I mean, we were no match for them. And Benjamin Franklin actually led the charge to raise $1.7 million and pay it to England to compensate for the loss of their tea. And a lot of, in our money today, a lot of money. So there was this extraordinary sense of, whoa, wait, we've gone too far. We provoked England. England would not take the $1.7 million. They didn't want it. They wanted blood. They were angry at what had happened. The French and Indian War was over, but the British troops still occupied American soil. The population of Boston was about 7,000, a little less than 7,000, but 13,000 troops, English troops and families, and their families were there, making it the population 20,000. For every resident, there were two foreigners, typically British troops. There was a feeling that the colonies were being suffocated by England, suffocated by having to buy English goods, suffocated without having a voice. And so when it appeared that the movement toward independence was stalling, Washington did an interesting thing. He was the military commander of what little military the colonies had. He financed 6 schooners, no match for English warships or merchant ships, no match. They were like little mosquitoes. And yet, and here's what he did. He flew a flag on those ships called an appeal to heaven. White flag, pine tree, the words, an appeal to heaven. It was a prayer flag. It was a prayer flag. We don't have any other hope except that we appeal to heaven. Interesting. One of those little schooners called the Lee captured the Nancy, loaded with munitions, gunpowder, muskets, etc. And that was enough munitions for 1 year in the Revolutionary War. There would have been no Revolutionary War if it hadn't been for this capture. And then another schooner captured another British ship. And all of a sudden, extraordinary favor, these little prayer ships were capturing British ships. And then Massachusetts floated 25 additional ships. All Washington put out was 6 or 7 little ships. And then there was another 25. And then all up and down the coast, and in every village and hamlet, and even over the nation's capital, which was Philadelphia, this flag was flying, an appeal to heaven. God, we have no other hope except that you intervene in our behalf. Now, why did they put a pine tree on the flag? The Iroquois Indians knew this tree as the tree of peace. Here's why. 6 Indian tribes had come together and buried their weapons of war at the base of this tree. And that's where you literally get the phrase bury the hatchet. They showed up at the Second Congressional Congress and they shared the story of their peace. And so their tree of peace became in America the Liberty Tree, and it went on that flag. We want liberty, the famous phrase of Patrick Henry, give me liberty or give me death. But there's more. That particular species of pine tree was common in the northeast area of the U.S. It grew from 150 feet to 230 feet. It towered above the tree line. Now, a good oak will grow 100 to 220 feet, but this is 150 feet. This is 200 feet. The diameter of the trunk of these trees was 6 to 9 feet. They made extraordinary mastheads for ships, and so the king, because of the uniqueness of these trees, claimed every one of these trees as his own. Even if it was on your property, it belonged to the king. And they came through the colonies marking these trees up and saying, this belongs to the king. That was as heavy-handed as the Tea Act. And so the overreach of the king to claim these trees as his own, to not let the colonialists harvest them, and they were already selling them around the world, to not let them sell them, and all the profits have to go to the king. That was as heavy-handed as the Tea Act. So again, that tree became a symbol of oppression and liberty, and yet at the same time, because it was so tall, because it reached above the tree line, because of the nature of the tree, because it pointed, it was like a pointer to heaven, it too became a kind of prayer flag. One more piece of this. John Locke had a great influence upon Jefferson. And Locke is the one who gives us the phrase, nature's God and inalienable rights, the rights of nature and nature's God. Because Locke said, in nature itself, there is the revelation of God, and there is this common sense of conscience of what is right and what is wrong. And it runs through everyone's heart. And this is the basis for common law. We all know that killing is wrong. We all know that kindness is right. We all know that love is good. We all know that family is a noble is a noble thing. And here's what Locke said: when two parties can no longer reason out their differences, they make an appeal to heaven. And they go before God and they say to God, we are appealing to you for your intervention. When you cannot come to a place of agreement. And this is where the colonialists were at. This is what the Declaration of Independence was. If you read the Declaration of Independence, you know it's a list of grievances. And it's a list of grievances offered to England before God. And it says, unless these grievances are satisfied, we can no longer walk together. Their cause was not one of rebellion. Now, Chris Cuomo said on CNN, justifying what happened in the streets of America last year, this was what the revolutionists did. This is what the founders of America did. Nonsense. They did not believe in that. They didn't believe in rebellion. They didn't believe in that kind of revolution. They didn't want war. They wanted a peaceable dissolution of the connection between England. If England was not going to give them representation, if they're going to be taxed without representation, they felt that that was wrong. It was not reasonable. And so based on what was fair, common law, what was fair, then they petitioned England to say, we are declaring ourselves independent. We want a peaceful dissolution of the bond between us. And of course, because England was exploiting the colonies financially for all the good and the rights here without representation, it was an exploitation of, they were not going to set us free. So they declared war on us. And so the appeal to heaven was this prayer to God. We are declaring in the courtroom of heaven. We cannot in the courtroom of nations come to an agreement. So we're declaring in the courtroom of heaven that we want a separation, a fair and a peaceful separation between these parties. This is the basis of an appeal to heaven. It is time in the courtroom of heaven when we say, God, only you can fix this. It's so broken. Locke would say this: the people have no remedy in this, as in all other cases where they have no judge on earth, but to appeal to heaven. When there's no one that will judge fairly, we appeal to heaven. You see, this is where we reach the point now when the Supreme Court has failed us. It no longer rules on the basis of godly morality. Washington has failed us. You elect people and they go and they vote exactly the opposite of your conscience. They're not representatives. They feel empowered within their own right. The parties are stuck. Every vote, no matter if it's better lemonade, is on party lines. We can't work together. It's broken. It's absolutely broken. And when we can't, and when we have no other remedy, then we make our appeal to heaven. So this is the first flag of America. It's a prayer flag. It's a flag that flew over our cities, our colonies, our capital, over our ships, in our harbors. And it's a flag that we need to resurrect, the appeal to heaven flag. And in July, when we go across the nation, we hope that these teams, and if you decide to come to Kansas, or if you decide to do prayer experiences in your state, we hope you'll plant them everywhere until everybody's asking the question, what is this all about? What is that little white flag with a green tree and that name appeal? What is that all about? It is the point at which we have no alternative except to ask for God's intervention. And that's where we are as a nation. That's where we are as a church. God, we appeal to you, and we ask you to intervene in our behalf. And who would have thunk it? Who would have thunk it that 13 little colonies would defeat, cause them to pack up their bags and go home, the most powerful nation on the face of the earth, England. Nobody had a navy like theirs. Nobody had the strength that they had. Nobody had the reach around the world. They were the dominant global power. And God gave us freedom. He gave us a nation because we prayed. We want to pray again. We want to make our appeal to heaven. In Kansas, what we're doing is we are making our appeal to heaven. We are saying to God, we have no other recourse but you. Oh, Father, have mercy on us. I mean, there were times that Washington, he couldn't have, with his little ragtag army, he could not have met England face to face. There's no way. There's absolutely no way. He could not have matched his strength to their strength. But he would skirmish with them and then retreat, and skirmish with them and retreat. And somehow, by the grace of God, they never could put him down completely. And then God gave extraordinary moments in which battles turned right here near me, Kings Mountain, and other places. And God gave us an extraordinary victory. We did not win this battle, the Revolutionary War, by our might and our strength. It was the hand of God. It was an answer to our prayer. And now we need another answer. We need another mighty, mighty answer. So that's the story behind the appeal to heaven flag. You can get these little flags online. In fact, I've got one, but I thought I had it in my little jar here. I've got one over here. But yeah. Oh, Bill says there's a small bell in the lower right-hand corner. I guess that's on Facebook. You tap it to get notified. And he said, I get mine late for some reason. Sorry about that. Bill Woods from Bakersfield, God bless you. Vicki, God bless you. Edme, God bless you. Molly, Pastor Dennis Langford has one we use every Sunday in prayer. Amen. Shirley found them on Amazon for $27. I know you can find them cheaper than that. I know you're looking for the full size probably, but you can find them, the little ones that we're suggesting that you use to plant when you're going out to pray. You can find them for 60, 70 cents. Shirley, Bob, God bless you. Lynn, God bless you. All of you who are on this morning. God bless all of you. See you tomorrow. Spread the word, if you will, and pray about what God might be wanting you to do in July. What is God calling you to do in July? We hope every church, we hope every city, every county will have public prayer services. And we hope you'll tune in. We'll release media for July 4th for the 245th birthday for the nation. And we will also then stream from Kansas on the 23rd. And then we're praying and asking God to do a mighty, mighty thing in the nation, because the real power of this thing is grassroots. It's where you live. God bless you. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Let me see if there's any of you that I missed here. Jacob, God bless you. Jody, God bless you. Tim, God bless you. Levine, God bless you. Clyde Hughes, wow. Wow, I need to talk with you. Uh, God bless you, all of you. Bye bye.